Technology is a complex and volatile industry. That is why it's high time to step up and call bullshit on big tech firms that only spew information that benefits them. This is With Absolute Specificity, the program that's unafraid to shoot from the hip about all things tech and marketing. Get your dose of accurate information with a generous portion of humor right here. Get frank wisdom and plain-spoken facts straight from the source with host Jason A. Wood. You can count on him to bring the harsh yet practical truths to the surface. Get ready for another episode of With Absolute Specificity.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today and welcome to another episode of With Absolute Specificity, the podcast all about doing shit on purpose. Today we've got a really special guest. It's James Whittaker, host of the very popular podcast, Win the Day. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, James is a 3-time selling best author. And I know he doesn't need a ton of introduction to my audience, especially because we're all business geeks, if you will, in our space. But James has been everywhere. He's been on the Today Show. He's been just everywhere. Millions of followers. He touches millions of lives. His latest book is a great book centered around Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, called Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. And I encourage everybody to check it out. It's a great read. James, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing today?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I'd like to delve right into that, right? So, because I'm so intrigued, as we talked about, with the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich and kind of like its modern day application. Take my viewers and listeners through the thought process behind the book and then what you hope to achieve with it.
Yeah, well, the book released in 1937, the best-selling self-help book of all time. It's amazing the legacy that it continues to have. So people like Rob Dyrdek, Barbara Corcoran, Bob Proctor, all these people have had their lives transformed through reading this one simple book. Yet there's been a whole bunch of people, many, many more people who have read the book that have done nothing with it. Yeah. That's why I've got this giant canvas print for people who can't watch this and are listening to the audio. I have a giant canvas print behind me that says action, the difference between having and wanting. And it's so true. Everyone wants the results, but they don't take the action that's going to lead to them having the results. So the people who get inspired by Think and Grow Rich, take action on it to achieve the results they're after, they're the ones who change the world. And they're the people that I'm so grateful to have been able to interview for Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. And it's just interesting to me. The fundamental premise behind what you just said is action without, the desire without action is just desire. I'm reminded of the expression that opportunity often comes dressed like hard work. And so I think a lot of people want to get these shortcuts. And it's, these younger generations, especially because technology facilitates kind of the expedition of some of these processes. Man, you can go be a YouTuber. What do you say to that audience and trying to help them kind of leverage their own skill set that are looking for all those, instant fame, instant viral stuff about the importance of these fundamental principles?
Well, you have to recognize that instant gratification is the dream killer. It's the big dream killer. Something that's going to make you happy in the short term. That's not what we're after here. We don't want those feelings of short-term gratification. If anything, we want to do the complete opposite. We want to delay these things. We want to put in the hard work now, but it's also smart work. If you can focus on increasingly making yourself more and more valuable, that means that you have more and more value that you can add to people who are higher and higher up the food chain. If you rang Elon Musk or happened to meet Elon Musk at an event, and you came to him with a solution to a problem that he was having, like there isn't a person on the world who wouldn't listen to you if you had a solution to a problem that they have. So the only way to do that is to become more and more valuable over time, focus on giving without the expectation of receiving anything in return, and then focusing on what you can do to leverage the relationships that you have. And again, so much of all of this comes back to what are you going to do to check in with them regularly and provide value, but you need to have a foundation of value yourself. So in particular for young people, focus on developing your skills. You touched on it there when you said skill set. A lot of people are busy. They're frustrated they don't have the result, but they don't have the skill set. So develop a skill set that enables you to provide value. That value creates a great relationship and you continue to flourish from there.
Yeah, you see a lot of it going on now with that exact thought in mind, where companies are starting to see that and they're starting to capitalize efforts internally in skill set development. I mean, it's kind of an antiquated paradigm to think that, well, if I make my people too skilled at what they do, they're just going to leave and start their own business. But in fact, that's really what we want, isn't it?
It is. That's the goal. Make yourself redundant. Yeah. I'm all about that. Yes, please do all the work. I don't want to do it. Yes, have someone else to do it. That's absolutely the dream and the whole idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you can elevate people and then leverage their skill set on their upward mobility and upward track and have something to do with that, I tell my team all the time that the best case scenario for me is that we're working on your business in 3 years. Because we're a marketing firm, we'd love to do that. So we let
Yeah.
our people do that, and I think that skill development thing is lost on a lot of the younger generation in terms of that they think that technology skill supersedes the other more core, more principled, more important skills in the business setting. You know what I mean?
For
Just the
sure.
ability to do the tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's opportunities to be able to align the mission and purpose that someone else has with your own mission to bring those things in. There's so many different ways that you can do that. People can look at, different bonus things, equity, all of those different things are available. But if someone is so set on leaving to go and start their own business, it's much better to have a partner, someone else in the trenches with you who you can talk about and refer business to rather than burning that bridge. So people like the best entrepreneurs of all time, people like your Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, they see the world as an adventure to be lived, whereas most people see the world as a danger to be avoided. And if you're looking at all your employees as a danger in the future, then you're not going to be able to embrace all the opportunities that come from the adventure that you can live with them now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Switching gears. I saw on your website you're doing a mastermind class now. And the mastermind, that whole concept to me is just phenomenal. And we talked to a lot of people. Brandon Adams and Kevin Arrington are guys that you and I both know that are involved in that as well. Give us your perspective on the mastermind and why it's so powerful.
Mastermind to me has changed my life because, quite frankly, the easiest way to be successful at something is to find someone who has the success you have and just do exactly what they tell you. People try to overcomplicate it, but if you want a result, if you want to be a marathon runner in the Olympics, go and find someone who's been a marathon runner in the Olympics. It doesn't matter what, if you want a billion-dollar business, find a mentor or someone that you can pay to get into that network, because I'm all for that. If that's your way of getting access to those people, it's a representation of your commitment to that relationship. That's where a foundation of a friendship can start, and someone who has launched billion-dollar businesses can become close friends and mentors for you for life through a very minimal investment. And if you manage relationships the right way, and it's so interesting, we talk about podcasting. I've helped so many business owners talk about relationships and podcasting and everything else. They're all thinking about, how can I monetize my podcast in the short term? What I'm doing is focusing on what I can do to leverage the relationships I have to $10 million, $50 million opportunities 5-10 years down the track. There's a very, very big difference. So playing the long game, focusing on value, and doing whatever you can do to get in the right room, because the right conversation in the right room with the right people at the right time can change everything, absolutely change everything. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. This September, I'm running a mastermind. I've got a Navy SEAL. I'm flying in from Hawaii, and a 26-year Navy SEAL, which is going to be great. We've got Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, who built up an email list of more than 2 million people through doing some pretty simple things that he's going to share. We've got people like Brandon Adams, who you just mentioned. So I'm just super excited to have those people to help facilitate, at the same time as we've got some incredible people from all around the world to participate and share their brilliance too.
No, that's fantastic. Before I would love to get your perspective on kind of a unique dynamic. What do you say to people that the mastermind is all about? Finding like-minded people and emulating successful behaviors, ferreting out and developing, new successful behavior. What do you say to the guy like myself, for example, or this company, my team, more to the point, that's trying to disrupt an industry where what you're doing is counterintuitive to the revenue model or, what's worked, the status quo, and you're trying to be a disruptor in an industry? What do you say to people that find themselves in that path where it's going to be a little hard to find people of a similar mindset in a particular niche or a particular space?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I'd focus on getting as clear as you possibly can about the problem. And if you can articulate the problem better than someone who has that problem does, they'll automatically assume you have the best solution. So you can sort of go down the route of trying to ask as many questions as you can to get as smart as you can about that audience of people you want to serve, which is very, very important. But sometimes they won't be able to tell you exactly what they need. That's what Steve Jobs was so great. He was the one that told them what they needed. And so you can play it either way. I think as long as you've got your own sort of, not necessarily a board of advisors, but your own committee around you to help you with that mission, just as you're ready to help those other people, you get some perspectives from outside of the industry to do it. But I think if just more broadly and more conceptually, if anyone thinks they're going to disrupt an industry that is an incumbent that's been doing things and had successful people for a long time, if you think, and I see that a lot with like content creators on social media, if you think you're going to beat Gary Vaynerchuk just doing exactly what he is doing, except doing it at 5% of the volume, you're toast. You're going to get run over by all these people. You have to have a level of disruption to be able to break through.
Yeah, and out Gary V, and Gary V is just not a winning strategy, man. It's just not. I mean,
sure. And I'm trying. I mean, we're in a content world. I'm definitely trying. But you've got to do what you can to, and that's where being authentic to your unique voice is very important. You don't want to be you don't want to be a crappy Gary V. It's much better to be, to be the best Jason that you possibly can, or the best John you possibly can, and you can take inspiration from some of the people who have blazed the trail before you.
Now, in that process, as you're going through the mastermind, kind of thought process, and you're talking to people, and listen, all of us that are in this level of business, we've all done it. Nobody gets here up by yourself. You just don't. Or if you do, it's a much harder road. I should say that. Some people, I'm sure, do. But what would you say? Here's kind of a unique angle on thing. And I know my team is going to ask me, and they asked me to ask you this. How do you know when it's time to cut bait with somebody that you felt like at one point was on the same mission or of the same mindset, and then suddenly, there's a divergence that takes place, or you see them doing things that you don't think are maybe ethical or whatever the case may be? How do you know when it's time to cut bait and walk away from those kind of relationships you're trying to develop?
Such an important question. The rule for me is never let a significant thought go unsaid. Just because you're feeling something about your business partner or someone else doesn't mean that it's the truth. You're missing context there because it's just your thoughts. You need to figure out what's in their head. So by not letting that significant thought simmer in your head, you can say to them, this might not be the truth, but this is how I'm feeling out of respect for our relationship. I just wanted to bring it up. It seems like you're slacking off or you're moving in a bit of a different direction. What I'm trying to do is over here. Let's get on the same page. How do you feel about me and all of those different things? So I'd be approaching it. You could obviously word it a little bit better than that, but never let a significant thought be left unsaid. And make sure anytime that you're willing to have that conversation, you are prepared and ready to embrace what is going to come back, because it's always a two-way street. The truth is always somewhere in the middle, and everyone has their own truth.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I mean, absolutely spot on. So, James, what's on your radar in the upcoming weeks and months here, buddy? What do you got coming down the pipe?
Big things. Filming a course for Success Magazine. So we've got that launching very soon, the Win the Day Accelerator. That's going global. So that's going to be the very first time ever I've put together this foundation. This is nice. This has been my life for the last 6 months, is putting this whole thing together. So really excited to launch that. Win the Day podcast is doing really well. We've got about 23 million views at the moment. So that's just getting better and better.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been, yeah. And how long have you been doing your podcast for, Jason?
We just launched it earlier this year.
Yeah, awesome. So what I tell people is don't launch a podcast unless you're ready to commit to at least a 12 to 24 month window. You just get these exponential gains over time. You get better at your craft. I love using a podcast to build an entire content machine on autopilot. It is by far the best way to upgrade your network, to upgrade, build your audience, monetize anything that you want to do if you do it the right way. And most people don't do it the right way. So podcast is a really great way of being able to do that. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, listen, I know you're a busy man. I'm not going to take a ton of your time today. We really appreciate you joining us. And, for all of my listeners out there, you guys have got to check out the new book, Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. It's fantastic. Check out the podcast, Win the Day. And by the way, if real quick before I go, tell me about the Facebook group that you have for our listeners. Tell us about that group.
Yeah. So being in isolation is one of the toughest things. So if you want to go into an environment, I'm just very big on having the right conversations. It's just something that I naturally do. I don't really talk so much about the weather or traffic or anything like that. I seem to just always be involved in these important, just more meaningful, deeper conversations. I love to do that. So if you're struggling with something, or if you've got a question for me, or you just want to be around some like-minded people, jump into that Win the Day group on Facebook, and I'm happy to help as much as I can.
That's great. I joined you today. James, thanks again for joining us, man. We'll talk to you soon. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jason. Thanks so much. You have a great day, mate.
All right, you too, buddy.
You've just listened to another episode of With Absolute Specificity. Stay updated on big tech with insights from industry thought leaders. What are you waiting for? Catch more episodes by visiting the website at www.specificityinc.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future releases.